the strengths that my children, that's been brought out within my children has helped me as a parent understand them better, and has helped me grow as a parent to be better in the way I can stand alongside my children as they walk through life.
Ridley College in St. Catharines, Ontario has more than 130 years of history. It's a co-ed school teaching kids from kindergarten through grade 12 with top-flight offerings in academics, sports, and more. Ridley is a community built on values and tradition, and it attracts students from all over the world, just like it drew Jo and her family from South Africa. They moved to St. Catharines so that their 4 kids could go to Ridley. And now, years later, Jo tells me how grateful she is for the school, not just for what it's given her kids, but for what Ridley has taught her herself as a parent.
When did you first hear about Ridley College?
My family and I were based in South Africa, and my husband had to relocate to North America. We started extensively looking at varieties of private schooling, and we actually found Ridley online, and we actually moved to St. Catharines specifically for Ridley.
So for your husband's work, you're relocating, and you're relocating, you didn't have to go to St. Catharines. You went there specifically for Ridley.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
What was it that made such a strong impression?
Well, with 4 children, we needed a school that was firstly co-ed, because we have 3 boys and a daughter. And we wanted a platform, a school with a platform that offered a variety for each of our children's needs. And Ridley was such a good fit for that.
What were you looking for when you hadn't heard about Ridley yet, you started Googling things on the internet? What were you looking for?
Like I said, firstly, it had to be co-ed for boys and girls. We did like the fact that it was an IB school. I did like the history and the traditional aspects that Ridley brought, the chapel on Fridays, cadet program. So those traditional values I really enjoyed. And then the strong academics was an attractive draw for us.
You know, from your own experiences overseas and in South Africa and wherever else in life, how familiar was, this traditional approach to education for you based on what you'd experienced elsewhere in the world?
Ridley is similar to the school our children attended in South Africa. It was also a school that was over 100 years old. And we figured moving, we needed to find something similar, if not better. And that is something that we really have found at Ridley. It was similar, but in a way a lot better in terms of the sports and arts and drama that it was offering. So yeah, that was a big draw for us.
What was the moment where you said, okay, we've looked at this whole list of schools, but forget these other ones, it's really this one? What was that moment and that decision?
Actually, when we came to Canada for our final decision, when we walked on campus, we knew that was the school we wanted our children to be at. I would suggest if you do a search online to make your decision before you go, because the campus is absolutely beautiful. And it's actually a big selling aspect of the campus once you're there. It's pretty hard not to imagine your kids walking on those grounds.
Paint a picture for me. What are we seeing? What are we experiencing when we walk onto that campus?
Huge spaces. The school is traditional, old building, just really beautifully set in St. Catharines. A really natural atmosphere for the children. The boarding houses add a really nice aspect to it. The campus is very well maintained. There's an ice rink.
So you walk onto this campus and you've got the old stone buildings and you've got also these quite modern facilities. is there a particular corner or place or room or a spot on campus that was more meaningful than others to your kids?
Yes, the chapel, the memorial chapel. It is very rich in history. The names of actually old Ridlians who attended, who had died in the war, is actually on the walls. Their names are on the walls. And just beautifully laid out chapel. It's actually quite special to attend it, especially over Christmas time when we have Christmas carols in the chapel. It is really special to be there.
Now I've got to ask, Ridley has a boarding program. You could have moved anywhere and sent your kids to Ridley.
Yes.
You've made quite a big decision by moving to St. Catharines for Ridley College. Why?
Well, our children's ages, boarding only starts from grade 5. So for us, we knew that some of our children would be too young. So we had to move to a place where they could all enter as day students. And essentially, when they are the right age, we could relocate if we want to and leave them in boarding, which actually they would love. They all would want to be boarders if they could. Because of the environment it creates, it's a novelty at Ridley to be a boarder. So yeah, I think they would definitely want to board if we can. Yeah.
It's a novelty. Tell me more about that.
It's just such a great experience for the boarders there. They have each head of house for the boarding have different ways in running their house. So no house is run the same. And it becomes a big standing tradition of which house you're in. And traditionally, all the siblings will follow. And if you have children and you're an old Ridlian, they will follow into the same house. So it becomes a long-standing tradition. The houses have activities. They have Saturday school for upper school, and they have outings. So, it really becomes quite a fun environment for the students to be in.
What does it mean to be an old Ridlian?
Well, you would have had to attend Ridley as a student yourself. And we have different, lifers. I think my younger kids would be lifers because they started in JK, and we're hoping they would continue until grade 12 if they choose to.
I guess I'm asking, as a parent who actively thinks about continuity, who sees all the value in the traditions, have you gotten a sense over these years about a culture or a special meaning that's attached to being part of this alumni network of old Ridlians?
Oh yes, for sure. It is quite significant to see Ridley traditionally have homecoming every fall and every spring. And it's quite incredible to be on campus during that time to see how people still wear Ridley proudly. They come with their, their cardigans that's patched with all their badges that they've earned over the years of attending Ridley. And it's quite special hearing their feedback of their times on campus. Actually, when we visited Ridley for the first time with our children, we ran into an old Ridlian, and she turned to our kids and said to them, I live in New York now, but I came to visit because I just got engaged, and I would not imagine getting married anywhere else but on this campus because this is where my best memories were. And it was quite special to hear. And she said to our kids, value what your parents sow into this experience for you, because they're sacrificing a lot, but it is oh so worth it for you, for your future. And that was really amazing to hear.
Yeah, that is a very powerful message.
Yeah.
How much did this have to do with why it was important to you that all your kids went to the same school? They could have gone to different schools, but there was something about being there together that was important to you.
I think as a parent, the convenience of having my kids in the same place. Ridley offers, a half-day option for the younger students where they can be dismissed at 3:30. But also if you're running late, they can stay in a club, which is offered as part of your school, and they can come home at 4:30. So it just depends from a parent's perspective how early you want your kids home. I do tend to find my kids want to stay there the whole day. So conveniently for me, I can pick all of them up at 4:30, and having them all in one place, doing their activities in one place is very, very convenient for us as a parent, for us as parents with multiple children specifically.
You know, I'm thinking about what that alumni told you on that tour. I'm thinking about this idea of old Ridlians and borders, and the importance of, like, my older sibling was in this house, and so I'm in this house, and there's the practical side, but there's this whole less tangible side. How much did that play into this big move that you were making of, you know what, we're going to go to St. Catharines and all 4 of you are going to this particular school?
It was significant, for us to have our kids. Moving country is not easy, and for them to be together, to kind of have that unity and have each other's backs in one place, that was helpful. They've transitioned into Ridley fairly quickly. For those who go to Ridley, you soon realize that it's a big, strong community that's warm and welcoming. But for them still, it was nice to have each other, to be able to guide each other through the day, check in with each other. I had messages from the teachers saying, you can tell your boys your daughter's okay, she's the youngest, because they keep on checking in on her in the class, and it kind of distracted her a bit. So yeah, it was nice to have the kids all together from that aspect, that they had each other. Even in a warm, welcoming environment, it's just that one part of familiarity that they had.
In those first months at Ridley, did you notice anything take place with your kids?
Yeah, incredible growth, in terms of stepping up and owning their grounds. Like, we've seen a rise in them from a leadership angle. A lot of Ridley's classes and presentations is run on a program offering them to each become individual leaders. And that was really incredible to see. I had a teacher reach out to me to say, if there's one thing you have that you want to see built up in your child, what would it be? And my son at that stage wasn't too fond of the English language. He wasn't too fond of speaking in public. And the teacher contacted me and said, I've entered him into a public speaking competition in Toronto. I'll pick him up on the Saturday, drive him, spend the whole day with him. And, it helps me prepare him for future. Like, I see something in him and I want to grow that. And it was just incredible that a teacher would go above and beyond, because he noticed something small and significant in a child, and he really wanted to nurture that. And for me as a parent who was concerned about him not having that, particular interest, it was beautiful to see it just form and create in my son something bigger. He ended up being the valedictorian in grade 8. So that was just so beautiful to see, from a boy who didn't want to stand up and speak in front of a whole class to standing up in front of the whole school and delivering quite an incredible valedictorian speech. So I do see that in Ridley, that they do raise leaders.
I'm fascinated about, tell me about what happens in the classroom that allows the teachers to have this kind of insight and perspective, and to notice something so small.
Yeah. So again, the classes are small, so the teachers have a lot more one-on-one time with the students. They also have different opportunities for the children to break out in groups. And because it's an IB school, they have the IB attributes that they kind of focus on, whether it's risk-taking or leadership or inquiry or inquisitive, whatever the attribute is. Each kid has to actually comply those attributes to the work they put into. And that's how the teachers kind of assess their strengths, and they celebrate those strengths within the children. And Ridley is one of the first schools to really embrace the well-being concept. And that well-being comes with using your strengths to build on your weaknesses. So it really is encouraging to see how they actually help your children with their strengths to build up their weaknesses. The parent-teacher conference usually involves our children presenting their work to us as parents. So that also kind of elevates them to become leaders in and owning the work they're doing. So yes, we have reports from teachers, but our children are equally involved in notifying us what their day entail.
How long has it been now since you first started at Ridley?
We moved to St. Catharines 5 years ago. So we've been at Ridley for 5 years.
How has your relationship with the school evolved over that time?
We have an incredible relationship with the school, with the faculty and staff. I'm involved in the Family Guild, which is the PTA, and the parent community is equally connected as the faculty and staff. We have never a lack of volunteers. Everyone rolls up their sleeves, jump in, because we want to help the school. You know, the teachers, as I've mentioned before, really goes above and beyond. And when you have that type of relationship of teachers giving so much, then it's easy for parents to kind of give back. So we do have a beautiful relationship with the school, a strong base of communication, and again, a strong, warm community that is created within Ridley.
Maybe this is something you get a perspective on within the Parents Guild. I'm wondering, Jo, if you have a sense of what are the common threads that draw families to Ridley?
I think academics is good. You know, it's probably the number one. But also the fact that Ridley has a wide variety of sport that they offer. The campus is big and can accommodate, you know, a variety of sports. We have 3 squash courts, we have the swimming pool, we have the ice rink, we have tennis courts. Rugby is still a big factor at Ridley. And basketball, we have indoor courts, I think about 5 indoor courts, I think. So yeah, it's you know, it's very convenient for parents, because especially in upper school where sports does become really competitive within Ridley, it is definitely a benefit to have a school that is well-rounded. It offers the strong academics, good sports, the music, the drama is all excellent, so that every teacher is passionate, every coach is passionate about what they're doing, and that really does help. When you as a parent invest in your child's education, because it's a private school, you're investing, and you know that what you put in is definitely what you are going to get out, if not more.
You mentioned the sports. I'm wondering, how important were extracurriculars? How important were they to the experience of your kids?
It might not be the best question to ask us, because we had so many different sports in South Africa. Rugby was a common ground, but cricket was not offered. And so for our children, when we moved, they had to find new interests. And that was, you know, a bit daunting, but also exciting, because with the new culture and the new change came new opportunities. So They have embraced it. One son enrolled into cross country, did exceptionally well with that. Other boys who have never even skated before actually got involved in hockey and absolutely love it. So, you know, it became a new culture and a new experience for us to embrace. So when we moved, it wasn't as much as a draw factor for us because it was all new to us. So yeah, it wasn't part of what drew us here.
You know, these past 5 years, your family's been at Ridley. We've talked about, you know, evolution and progress and growth in the sense of your kids. But what if we flip that around to the school? You know, it's obviously a very old school with long traditions, but maybe just in the past 5 years you've been there, what's something that you've seen evolve or grow or improve?
It is, Ridley is such a forward-thinking school. I'm on some committees from a parent perspective, and I'm amazed at how each teacher strive to be better. The school has ongoing progress. Like I said, we've recently become a well-being school. So I know it's one of the first in Canada, I want to say. I stand to be corrected on that. But, you know, they're continuously building to make the school better and improving. We have, you know, like all IB schools, you have your assessments. And when I entered some of those questionnaires, it was just phenomenal to see how they reach their goals every year, strive to grow the school in a direction, and they achieve every year, achieve all those goals, which is really encouraging to see. COVID-19 is one example, how the school have evolved from rolling out through March break, and then just all of a sudden had to go online, and we just had this incredible rollout of online learning with virtual classes and teachers being able to actually navigate our students as young as JK out on a media platform that was able to keep their learning going. You know, phys ed was going, music, drama, all of it was continuous. And that was really encouraging to see that even in the midst of a pandemic, Ridley can actually evolve and change, which is quite amazing for a school with such a long-standing history. And some teachers were learning alongside us as parents, getting into new apps and new, you know, platforms. But before we knew it, they had all these presentations on how to and where to find what, and the communication was just incredible. And the teachers just rallied together to make it happen. So there was never an excuse of, you know, we're shutting down. Everything was about the best interest of the students and how we can move forward.
Jo, I'm wondering, did the experience of the pandemic for you bring out something in particular about the culture and values at Ridley?
Yeah, it was quite incredible to see everyone come together. You know, with the boarding situation, some students couldn't get home, and some of the head of houses stepped up and kept some of the students with them. Parents stepped up and kept some of the boarders at their home until it was safe or until they were able to fly. Some students were at homes with other families for up to 3 months. So that is quite an incredible testament to the community that rallies together through Ridley. And also the kindness that came up, you know, if word got out of parents being affected by COVID in any way, shape or form, whether it's their business, people would start streaming about business ideas. The school would tap into families who owned their own businesses and started marketing, you know, those businesses to make sure that those businesses kept rolling. And it was just quite encouraging to see that even during stressful times, everyone rallied together. And that's the true testament to community, right? Is when things get tough, everyone pulls together.
You mentioned earlier, Jo, that Ridley is a well-being school.
Yes.
Could you tell me more about that?
So they've adapted Professor Leah Waters' approach to well-being and positive education. So it is all based on the well-being, overall well-being of your child, whether it's mind, body, spirit, it all rolls into one. And like I mentioned earlier, is that even if your child has weaknesses, how they can use their strengths to build on those weaknesses. So, you know, the reality is none of us are perfect, and kids will have areas where they struggle. We don't deny those areas. We use their strengths to build on the areas where they need help. So it's really encouraging and beautiful to see.
And you were talking earlier, Jo, about leaning on your strengths to build up your weaknesses.
Yes.
And that sounds like a similar idea there.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Now, Jo, what if we were to take that same idea and, you know, looking forward for the next 5 or 10 years, what's a way that Ridley College could lean on a strength to build up an area that's less strong?
Okay. Yeah, I think they focus in upper school is, or not their focus, their strength in upper school is the boarding community. And in times like this, where the future might change, they're looking at ways to improve, to have a broader platform where day students could participate more, and where boarding students might not have to participate on campus all the time. So kind of a virtual experience, but still get the Ridley education. So I know that the school is working towards something like that. But I guess with the upper school being more, their strength is the boarding community, I think that would definitely be one area they would have to look at.
Jo, I'm wondering if, you know, you've got 4 kids at Ridley and, you know, one who's going into grade 10 and other kids who are much younger than that. What's something that you're looking forward to on behalf of your younger kids for their future experiences at Ridley?
I once used the example to a parent who joined Ridley to say that being IB, we have PYP, MYP, and in upper school. So I use the example of PYP is where the children are nurtured and, you know, really kind of huddled around, where MYP, the children are shown how to kind of stand their grounds. And in upper school is to show your children they're ready to fly. And that for me was such a strong analogy of what Ridley really is. So your younger years, I know my kids are getting the nurturing they need. They're huddled around to help them grow, getting them ready to MYP, where they'll be able to stand on their own feet and kind of get to that point where they are more independent. And in upper school, I've just seen my son fly. It's been incredible to see. It is kind of like a university experience where they have an hour and a half long class. They have small breaks in between. My son is a day student, but he can still go to his house. He has a room, he has a desk where he can just unwind, change his books, change his clothes, and then go to the next activity. There's some nights where we pick him up at 9 o'clock because that's when he is ready to come home. And it's, as a parent, it's encouraging to see that my kid is choosing to be in an educational environment for most of his day. So I would rather have that than have him come home early and, you know, who knows what they're doing online or in the streets. And so it is quite special knowing that my younger kids are being prepared to get to that point for upper school.
Jo, I want to be respectful of your time, but first of all, I want to give you the steering wheel. I'm wondering, is there anything on your radar, anything that I haven't asked you that I ought to?
I think for me, maybe just for prospective families, just sharing a bit of information on our experience, perhaps even some personal experiences that we've experienced, if I could share that.
Please.
So having moved countries, you start new. You don't know anyone. And I was prepared to walk into the school and, you know, kind of just roll up to people, introduce myself, and start making friends. And that was the opposite at Ridley. I came onto campus, I was welcomed by people. People embraced us. Before I left that day, I had phone numbers of people wanting to have us over to introduce us and welcome us to the Ridley environment. I also mentioned before how the teachers go and above and beyond. And 2 of our boys had to have surgeries a year ago, and they were wheelchair bound for 4 months. So obviously this would change the outlook for them because, you know, phys ed and all of that, it's harder for them to participate. But the teachers actually created programs in order for our children to continue as normal as possible days. This didn't come as a request from us as parents. This came to us as a service from the school, where the principal and the head of lower school met with us along with the teachers, and they rolled out a program to ensure that our children would participate in a normal as possible day during a challenging time for them. And for me, this created the sense that Ridley is not just community on paper, they really are community in spirit. Their motto is Terra Dum Prosum, which means may I be consumed in service. And it is really amazing to see how the faculty and staff and a lot of the parents actually roll out the motto and live it daily in their lives.
Jo, I'm wondering if there's something, a lesson, an experience, something that when your kids have long left Ridley, that's going to stay with you, something that's helped you grow.
Yeah, for sure. I think the strengths that my children, that's been brought out within my children has helped me as a parent understand them better, and has helped me grow as a parent to be better in the way I can stand alongside my children as they walk through life. So that has been a gift from the school, to be able to bring that out in our children so that I could be a better parent in my daily walk alongside my children.
Jo, I'm wondering if you could pick up the phone right now and call yourself, 5, 6 years ago when you had just heard of Ridley, you're just looking it up, you're going, maybe we should look at this place. When you're going through that important process, what advice would you give your past self?
You should have done it earlier. I would have loved for all my kids to have started at Ridley in JK. Honestly, it would have made a difference in some of the challenges some of my kids faced a little bit earlier in their lives. I think a lot of that would have been resolved later if they had done it, if they attended Ridley earlier.